Hi, good evening. Dr. Paracha, one of the community oncologists. And today we are here to talk about what do we need to know about our skin cancer prevention. And in the end, we'll talk about some different types of cancers too. So I'm sure we've been told all along about ultraviolet rays, which are invisible kind of radiation that come from us sun. They can also come from tanning beds and sun lamps. These can penetrate and they can be damaging to our skin. There are three types of ultraviolet rays: ultraviolet A, UVA, UVB, and UVC. Most ultraviolet rays that reach the surface of the earth are A-type, and they can reach deep into human skin and damage connective tissue and skin's DNA. So skin is a multi-layer thing. It's epidermis, dermis, and underlying layers. And ultraviolet A rays can deep. And if you look at the side of it, then they can penetrate all the way to the connective tissue. Most ultraviolet B rays are absorbed by the ozone layer, which is in the space. So few of them reach the Earth's surface compared to UVA rays. UVB rays, which help produce vitamin D in the skin, don't reach as far into the skin as UVA rays, but they can still cause sunburn and damage DNA. And the third type, UVC rays, are very dangerous, but they're absorbed completely by the ozone layer and do not reach the Earth's surface. In addition to causing sunburn, too much exposure to ultraviolet rays can change skin texture, cause the skin to age prematurely, and can lead to skin cancer also, which we'll talk later. Ultraviolet rays also have been linked to eye conditions such as cataracts. How do we protect ourselves and how do we gauge when we need the protection? There is Environmental Protection Agency and has National Weather Service with Environmental Protection Agency, which has developed an index and which we can access through internet. And it's called UV index. It's the icon to forecast the risk of overexposure to UV rays. The UV index predicts exposure levels on 0 to 11 plus scale. High levels indicate a high risk of overexposure. Mild to moderate is 1 to 2. UV index is 3 or higher. Sun protection is needed. And UV index considers clouds and other local conditions that affect the amount of UV rays reaching the ground. So it's a very good source to utilize how to protect ourselves. Anyone can get skin cancer, but there are certain high-risk people. People with certain characteristics are greater risk: lighter natural skin color, which is usually lack of pigment, skin that burns easily, freckles, or reddens easily, or becomes painful in the sun, and certain blue or green eyes. I've read in some places even gray eyes, colors, and all these also make an impact. Blonde or red hair with people. Certain types and many molds, family history of skin cancer, personal history of skin cancer, and the older age. You can see normally we have a double helical DNA, which is on the right, on the left, and after being exposed and damaged, there is a breakdown in the this one. So this is the normal double helical DNA, and after breakage, you can see there is damage, and that any damage in DNA can originate into new format, and that can lead into aberrant production, and that in turn leads into cancer formation or death. So how do we protect ourselves to UV radiation? It's very important all year round, not just during the hot season or at the beaches. The sun rays, the UV rays from the sun can reach on cloudy and hazy days also, not only on bright and sunny days. They also can reflect off from the surfaces, like when you're on the beach or near a pond or lake, like water, cement, sand, and snow. Indoor tanning, using a tanning bed, booth, or sun lamp to get tan, exposes users to UV radiation also. There are certain hours where the intensity is higher and the risk is higher. Those are between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And in daylight saving, it's 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Standard Time. These are the most hazardous time when UV exposure outdoors in the continental countries, in the continental United States and throughout the world. UV rays from sunlight are the greatest during the late spring and early summer in North America. So this is unavoidable. Ultraviolet rays are everywhere. We love to go out. We cannot be living hooked up, otherwise we all get cabin fevers. So we have to get some sunlight, which is healthy for us also. But at the same time, how do we decrease the risk? So CDC has recommended easy options for protection from ultraviolet rays. Stay in the shade, especially during midday hours. Wear clothing that cover your arms and legs, which I'm sure is very difficult to do when we are on vacation. Wear a hat with wide brim to shade your face, head, ears, and neck. I think that's easy to handle. Wear sunglasses that wrap around the block both UVA and UVB rays. Use sunscreen, which is the very good source to incorporate. Use sunscreen with a sun protection factor SPF of 15 or higher. Usually we recommend 30, and avoid indoor tanning. Again, shade, clothes, sunglasses, hat, and sunscreen. Sunburn. Usually sunburn is not immediate. It doesn't happen at the time. Symptoms usually start about 4 hours after sun exposure, worsen in 24 to 36 hours, and resolve in 3 to 5 days. It's a big price to pay. They include red, tender, and swollen skin, blistering headache, fever, nausea, and fatigue due to dehydration. In addition to the skin, eyes can become sunburned too. Sunburned eyes become red, dry, painful, and feel gritty. Chronic eye exposure can cause permanent damage, including blindness. Early cataract is one of the damaging effect of the UV rays into the eye. First aid, what do? Take aspirin, Tylenol, or ibuprofen to relieve the pain, headache, and fever. Hydration is the key. Drink plenty of water to help replace fluid losses. Comfort burns with cool baths, Aveeno baths, or gentle application of cool, wet clothes. Avoid further exposure until the burn has resolved. Use of topical moisturizing cream, aloe, and 1% hydrocortisone cream may provide additional relief if blistering others. Lightly bandage or cover the area with gauze to prevent secondary infection. Do not break the blisters. This slows healing and increases risk of infection. When the blisters break and the skin peels, dried skin fragments can be removed, and an antiseptic ointment or hydrocortisone cream may be applied. Seek medical attention if any of the following occurs. That is, severe burns covering more than 15% of the body, dehydration, symptomatic with dizziness, fever, high fever greater than 101 degree Fahrenheit, or extreme pain that persists for longer than 48 hours. So a tanned skin, which we all like, is not a good sign. It does not indicate good health. A tan is the skin's response to injury because the skin cells signal that they have been hurt by UV rays by producing more pigment. Any change in skin color after UV exposure, whether it is a tan or a burn, is a sign of injury, not health. Over time, too much exposure to sun rays can cause skin cancers, including melanoma, which is the most deadliest type of skin cancer or most aggressive one. Basal cell carcinoma. The reason melanoma is very aggressive also, it doesn't stay local. If neglected, it can move to different parts of the body and become hard to treat. Basal cell carcinoma, most of the time remains local, and squamous cell carcinoma, so there's that one. UV exposure can also cause cataracts and cancers of the eye. Ocular melanoma can happen. Every time you tan, you increase your risk of getting skin cancer. So what do? We live long life. We want to be, healthy. So early detection, Early prevention is the only way of cure. So detect early, take care of it, can avoid bigger problem. So regular self-exams are especially important for people who are at the high risk of skin cancer, such as people with reduced immunity, people who have had skin cancer before, and people with long family history of skin cancer. Just remember, if there's one spot in the skin that became cancerous, it's a field cancerization. Like the whole skin has the same cell types. So if one cell became aberrant and became cancerous, the other cell can do also. It's not that the whole body skin is going to become cancer, but different spots can develop. There can be different primaries, can be different frequencies of cancers. So you have to keep on checking yourself all the time. Keep your dermatologist appointments if you're at risk. Talk to your doctor about how often you should examine your skin. A skin self-exam is best done in a well-lit room in front of a full-length mirror. You can cause a handheld mirror to look at areas that are hard to see, such as the back of your thighs. A spouse, partner, or close friend or family member may be able to help you with this exam, especially for those hard to see areas like your back or scalp. The first time you examine your skin, spend time carefully going over the entire surface. Learn the pattern of moles, blemishes, freckles, and other marks of your skin so that you notice any change next time. Just a little help. Every one of us have cell phones. We take pictures right and left. So if you find anything that is noticeable, just take a picture and save it. At an interval of a month or so or a certain time, take another picture and then compare it. That will help you to detect things earlier than you would need, than it would be detected if you go to a doctor. Be sure to show your doctor any areas that concern you. Follow these step-by-step instructions to examine your skin. You guys can look at your legs between the toes. Don't forget the clefts, never. And the soles of your feet. Look at the back of your legs, between the toes, the feet, the space between your fingers and toes, and the soles of your feet. Check your face, ear, neck, chest, and belly. Women will need to lift their breast to check the skin underneath. The hairline area, where usually it's very hard to notice things because the skin can be covered with hair, and sometimes with all these masks and everything, we feel like things are irritated. I just saw somebody today had a little darkening of the skin, and lo and behold, it is melanoma. But it's hidden under this hairline, very close to the mask. Initially thought that has to be an irritation or allergy or something. But it can be very deceiving. So no part of the skin is really spared. Check your underarm areas, both sides of your arms, the tops and the palms of your hands, in between your fingers and under your fingernails. Fingernails are very important to check, and usually they come as black line or can be a spot. Use a hand mirror to examine the back of your neck and scalp with the hand mirror part here for a closer look. Finally, make sure you check your back and buttocks too. All in all, the whole body has to be checked. Now, we talked about the risks. We talked about how to protect, which is very simple. As we said earlier, avoid heavy intensity time if possible. If not, make sure you are in the shade, cover yourself. Use gadgets to protect direct rays to very sensitive areas like skin and face, which usually cannot be covered with clothes. Wear a hat and use the sunscreen. But what happens when this damages take place? The picture shows you, this is like a cut section of the skin and the hair follicles, the outer surface, epidermis, epidermis, dermis, and then these blue spots, which you see. I'm sorry, my mouse is not following me very well. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. So the blue spot, these are the colored blue, but these are the cells which produce melanin. So different areas will give rise to different type of cancers. So the squamous cell cancer usually happens at epidermis area. Basal cell cancer, which I will describe in a while, can happen in this basal area. And melanoma arises from these specific cells which produce pigment, the melanin. And under these layers is the whole factory, which is providing us nourishment, blood vessels, nerves, and then comes adipose tissue. So skin cancer is the most common form of the cancer in the United States. The two most common types of the skin cancers are basal cell and squamous cell carcinomas. These are highly curable, but can be disfiguring and costly to treat. Highly curable because they stay local, they grow very slowly, they give you enough time to take any meaningful steps to cure them. Melanoma, the third most common skin cancer, is more dangerous and causes the most deaths. Many cases of these three types of cancers are caused by overexposure to ultraviolet light. As I said earlier, melanoma likes to spread, if not caught in time, can move into the lymph nodes, can move into different organs, including the brain. And that's most commonly is the cause of the death. Basal cell carcinoma begins in the basal layer of the skin, which I just pointed out. Squamous cell carcinoma begins in the squamous layer of the skin. Melanoma begins in the melanocytes, which are the cells that make melanin, the pigment that gives skin its color. Basal cell carcinoma. This skin cancer often develops on the head or neck. Remember, these are the areas which are usually not covered. Shiny, raised, and rounded growth. We call it a pearl-like presentation. Pink or reddish growth that dips in the center, like a dimple, growth or scaly patch of the skin on or near the ear, a sore that doesn't heal or heals and returns and may bleed, ooze, or crust over, which usually happens if they're neglected. A scaly, slightly raised patch of irritated skin, which could be red, pink, or another. So as I said, it's like a shiny, little rounded, pearly-like appearance. Same thing here. Yeah, you can see that. Symptoms, most commonly, they are just there. You itch, you scratch, they go, they come back. Most common is a slow-growing lump. Others have reported sometimes numbness, pins, and needles. Sensitivity and itching cases are less likely symptoms. Numbness, pins, and needles, especially if the location is close to a nerve. Otherwise, they just look, they're there. They don't cause too much of symptoms to get attention. Squamous cell carcinoma is not as shiny and smooth as basal cell. It's usually rough because it's at the top layer. Reddish, scaly patch, open sores, often with raised borders, round spot that looks like an H spot, firm dome-shaped growth can happen, wart-like growth can happen, tiny rhinoceros-shaped horn growing from your skin, also call it the metafibrosoma tuberans, sores developing in an old scar, they're there. Symptoms are similar. Most commonly is a sore that won't heal or return. Others have reported, again, if it's close to a nerve, pins and needles, sores, or tenderness and or itching. As you can see, this is like a horn coming out, small horn, scaly patch, does not look smooth. And here is the skin. This is most likely this is more melanoma than squamous cell. What are melanomas? So we talked about basal and squamous cell, which are very common. Anybody who's been in the field, has been exposed to sun, has been doing water skiing, not covering their head, or work-related jobs in the farms, not wearing head covers, usually develop on the scalp. We have seen the cases all the time. What is melanoma? Melanoma is a skin cancer that can show up on the skin in many ways. It can look like, we call A, B, C, D, E. That is the acronym we use to define different characters of melanoma. A is asymmetry. Asymmetry means if you take a spot and fold it halfway through, like a semicircle, it should just match. So asymmetry is opposite of that. There is no symmetry. When you fold it, it does not match equally, the half of it. that is suspicious. You have to be worried about it. So A is for asymmetry. One half of the spot is unlike the other half. So when one half of the spot is like the other one, is usually benign condition. When it is not, then you suspect melanoma, which is malignancy. B is the border. It's not smooth, it's irregular. The spot has irregular scallop or poorly defined border. You cannot draw a line along with it because it's ragged. C is the color, different shades. The spot has varying colors from one area to the next, such as shades of a tan, brown, black, or areas of white, red, or blue. So as you can see in the picture of the color, so there are difference. It's not smooth, just one color like this alone. If it was present, this would be something nothing. Because of the asymmetry, it becomes important. But if the whole lesion is just one color, then we worry less. But when it has all these different presentations, then you worry more. D is for the diameter. While melanomas are usually greater than 6 millimeter or about the size of a pencil eraser, when diagnosed, they can be smaller also. This is just a rough way we use it, but this size goes along with the color, border, and symmetry part. Evolving, that is where I said, when you see a spot, take your cell phone out, take a picture. Keep on repeating the picture and just compare it. Same angle, same form. That will give you really if anything is changing. So when you see a thing evolving in size, that is the E, A, B, C, D, E, the spot looks different from the rest, or is changing in size, shape, or color. It's high suspicion for melanoma. So these things are very important to know because all of us have one or two spots in our body. So keep an eye on them. The fourth cancer, which is not at all common, but is very aggressive, very fast growing, moves faster than you can imagine. Merkel cell carcinoma, MCC, is a rare skin cancer that often looks harmless. People can mistake it for insect bite, sore, cyst, sty, pimple. It is so aggressive, finding it early can be life-saving. Key facts about this cancer is that can help you find it early are that Merkel cell tends to grow quickly. It usually becomes noticeably bigger in few weeks to months, not years, weeks to months. Can be pink, red, or purple. It's painless, as most of the carcinomas, most of the malignancies are, and especially the skin malignancy, if they're not impinging on a nerve, painless, develops on the exposed area of the head and neck. While it can develop anywhere on the skin, it usually appears on the skin that's gotten a lot of sun over the years, such as the head or neck. Don't forget the back of the neck. Appears after 50 years of age. So imagine chronic exposure, chronic damage, chronic problem evolving into malignancy. Research shows that 97% of the people who develop this rare skin cancer are older than 50. But to be honest, as we are moving into this COVID era, we are seeing cancers not following any more age rule. Things are happening 10 years earlier, 5 years earlier. In majority of the cancer lines we are seeing, people are getting diagnosed on A because they're being screened and diagnosed, or it's an early incidence also. And more aggressive. The earlier age cancer developed, the more aggressive it is. Most people are in their 70s or 80s when diagnosed with Merkel cell carcinoma. Because Merkel cell carcinoma is rare and can be aggressive, anyone who is diagnosed with this cancer should be under the care of a team of medical doctors that is experienced treating it. This team may include dermatologists, doctors like oncologists, and surgeon and oncologists, radiation oncologists, and surgical repetitions. This is one of the rare tumor, and believe it or not, I did a whole presentation during my fellowship because we had a very large case. One gentleman who had a dermatofibrosarcoma protuberance on the face, responded beautifully to the treatment. So dermatofibrosarcoma, sarcoma is a word used when the spindle cells or the different types of cells are involved, which are more fibrous, and they evolve into cancer. Protuberance, it's called because it grows like a horn or protrudes from the skin. It's a rare. The first sign of this skin cancer is often a small bump on the skin. It may resemble a deep-seated pimple or rough patch of skin. And then it can grow like a horn. And it is due to a mutation. And it can respond to a very selected targeted therapy, which is in the form of a pill. Cutaneous T-cell lymphoma is rare. It's one of the cancer which involves as the name says, lymphocytes, which are not B T cell type. There are two types. The third type is NK also. The most common type of cutaneous T-cell lymphoma looks like a rare, it looks like a rash and develops in the skin that gets little sunlight. Treatments for T-cell lymphoma and dermatofibrosarcoma protuberance is slightly different than treatment for squamous cell carcinoma or basal cell carcinoma or melanoma. So let's do a little question. Can you spot skin cancer? Most skin cancers are found during a checkup. They're from the people who notice a suspicious looking spot on their own skin and then see a dermatologist. Images used with this permission of the electric density. All righty. So this is showing the answers already?
Yeah, that's how it's set up.
Okay, all righty. All right, guys, it's no brainer now. We can see. And skin cancer look like a semi-transparent dome-shaped growth. Yes, we can see that. All right. Can it look like a crusty, slowly growing patch on your skin? We talked about that. Sore that just won't heal, non-healing. Melanoma, the most serious type. If you can see the little finger with the black thing, that streak is under the nail bed or toenail. Can skin cancer look like a new scar or a change to an existing scar? Yes. This is mole that has two different shades. That's type of a melanoma. Changing mole, yes. Any questions?